Oh, welcome to the NavBar, a podcast where usually John Myers makes the intro, but I've just taken over so he cannot jump in. My name is Simon Vrashley Otis, and you are.
John Myers. Thank you. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for doing the intro. Just before we went live, Simon had to remind me, okay, you've got to stop swearing now because I've hit the big red button. So I think that's why he quickly jumped in and took the intro, was just to make sure we can still put this out through the non-explicit channels.
Yes, always worth a double check. Hey, heads up, we're going live. Stop being the behind the scene version of John that people don't hear.
Clean up that potty mouth. Let's go. Simon, how's your week been?
It has been amazing. If you heard the episode last week, I did a specific sick peek about IRL in real life events as remote workers. And last week, literally right after the episode, I packed my bag and left for Sydney for a 2-3 day gathering. It was literally called Gathering, the name of the event, with Thinkmill, the company I work at. And oh boy, it was amazing. I feel rejuvenated. I feel closer to my team. I feel smarter because I've learned a lot of things. I feel healthier because we've done lots of hiking in the Blue Mountains. It lived up to the expectation, and that was super cool.
That's awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so nice actually meeting the people that you work with. I don't know how many people out there listening are in the same situation as us, but we are working remotely and have been for a long time now. Definitely ever since COVID kicked off, and so it's very nice to actually meet the people you work with and the people you chat to on Slack day to day.
Yeah, man. And it's funny, like once a week we have an all hands. It's little hands. We like only 30 people, but all hands team week. It's called every Tuesday morning, where the entire company jumps on Zoom for half an hour and we go through of formal stuff like client stream updates, and then we go through a less formal. Someone takes a turn to do like a demo of something. Mostly sometimes client update, but sometimes also like a random demo, like how to build a backyard shed or some stuff that are really interesting. And it's what, like, over the weeks, more and more people dropped off that thing, and it became more like a chore. And people are like, everyone loves it, but you like working remote, you inevitably start drifting into this like, yeah, cool little square with people's faces, and we give updates, and it loses that connectivity stuff. And part of the retreat we did, we spent maybe half an hour of the first day trying to work out how can we improve the format of this thing to bring us back together again, because the whole idea is like be together as a team. It's not necessarily like get updates from the latest clients and like the business stuff. And turns out the number one remedy from what we did, there's strategies, but the main one that you cannot replace is actually spend time together as humans doing doing human things, like having a meal, having a hike, having a drink, whatever, like doing stuff together that is not work related and is not screen digital 2-dimension related. And we had the team week yesterday because today is Wednesday. And everyone was so, like, sometimes people have their camera off or they muted, and everyone was camera and talking with the mic on and laughing and just interject, like jumping into conversation and roasting each other and all the stuff that good friends tend to do. And we literally didn't change the format. We just, like, everyone had spent quality time together, and it was like, we have this Zoom meeting with the good friends that I've seen. I've seen their legs. I've seen behind their back, like the... I
Yeah,
know
that was
them.
the thing that surprised me the most meeting everyone at Superbase, is like the different proportions, because you
Yeah.
only see like this same square cut out every single time, and so seeing like how tall people actually were is really surprising.
Yeah, how tall, and also like your brain starts to assimilate that, this person lives in this box with a staircase and
Yeah,
it's got a rubber duck and a little bit of plant there, and then you see them like in the same room as you at a dinner table, and it's just like you're just reminded, even if you knew, but you're reminded that they're humans and they have other things in life than their little Zoom setup. And yeah, so it was amazing. So just to give you a quick overview, there was a 3-day, but really two days event but you arrived as an expat from Sydney myself. I arrived on Wednesday night and left on Saturday morning, but the day was Thursday, Friday. And so the first day was something called Share Back, and it's basically after leaving the best way to describe it is like a very informal internal conference. So
Right.
it felt like there's the speaker lineup, there's an opening keynote, closing keynote, and then everyone has a time slot. But it's intentionally very stripped back. Like if you don't want, no one was expected to prepare something. Just find a topic that you want to share back. It can be skills. I picked video editing because I like it, and I think it was really well received. But some folks picked like completely non-technical topic. Like I've used the backyard shed. One person literally assembled a backyard shed and had to dig a trench to put the cables, and that was the presentation. We had a fantastic wine tasting session to close out the day. That was the closing keynote by one of our engineers, and she's finishing a degree in winology and like proper.
That's not a real word. That's a lie. That's a made-up word.
Well, she's studying at university, studying wine, and she's also finishing a sommelier certificate. So she did the whole wine tasting and what wine pairs with what, and try to not blindfold, but like close your eyes and try to figure out what sort of stuff are in wine, and then teaching us about how different wines are made, and that was super cool. So we did this first day, and I was like, it's literally because there is some phenomenal people in the Thinkmill team, and you saw the lineup and you was almost like, hey, that's like a tech conference. But then it was no cameras, no shit. Well, we took photos, but like no external people, just us sitting in a circle of chairs and really casual, and people were welcome to ask questions and interrupt and roast and all the good stuff you would do in a more like safe space, closed circle, rather than like a real conference. But the quality of the presentations and the food between the sessions, it was very much like going to Web Directions or Epic Web Conf. But
yeah, I was thinking this is probably very similar to the group of people that was at React Conf Sydney before everyone else arrived.
Yeah, pretty much. It felt, or I don't know if you went, there was a really small Code Heart Design conference organized by people at Thinkmill. It felt like a high quality polished thing, but also there was like everyone had 10 or 15 minutes, and the first person took about half an hour and just getting roasted by everyone to cut it short. And then like there was like intentional like casualness to it, but it still didn't distract from everyone had their time to present, and it was super cool. So that was the first day. So it's kind of like it's not a work day at all, but it's still sort of people amplifying each other with their skills and interest, and bringing this network of like interest, and like, oh, this person likes this, maybe we should talk about this. Totally. Which was the seed planted for the next day. That was really carefully crafted, I think, because this happened all the first day, and then people went to sleep like if you go to a conference, it's exhausting. You're like, oh my god, what a day! Go to sleep, and then the next morning we all met at the Sydney Central train station and caught a train to the Blue Mountains, which is about 2 hours 10 minutes precisely, the train ride. And from the get-go, you could, like, people are ready to go hiking and stuff, and we just completely hijacked one full train carriage, which is about 30 people capacity. And again, this train was like a mini conference meetup. Like everyone was talking about the different topics from the day before, and like you could see that the seed they had planted completely worked. Instead of people
like
just
a
saying
hallway track, but it's in the middle of a moving train.
That's exactly what it was. It was a hallway, like railway track.
I don't know why I didn't make that joke. That's too obvious. That's a good one.
You can edit and pretend you found that one. But
it's like the train track.
Yeah, the main train track. It was amazing. Like you could see that instead of saying, "Oh, how's what project are you working? Like, what state management are you using?" Like people were like going completely in different topics related to the day before. And so we went to this place. Everyone knows Katoomba, which is the main place in the Blue Mountains, but there's there is a like little village right next to it. I can't remember the name now. Fairy Meadow, maybe something Blue
Right.
Meadow, something Meadow, Meadow Blue, whatever.
Blue Meadow
And
would be appropriate given that it's at the foot of the Blue Mountains.
yeah, no, maybe Blue is because of Blue Mountain. It's probably Fairy Meadow. I don't know. I don't want to look it up. But there's a really fancy, very old and fancy hotel right on the. So the Blue Mountains is like a. Everything is elevated, and then the mountains actually go down instead of up. Like you're at the top, and then there's an escarpment, and it just drops down. And the hotel was like literally built on the ridge. So if you went on the balcony, you just see like this drop in like bushland till like it feels bigger than Europe of like trees everywhere. I'm from Switzerland and mountains are like kind of close and cornered and there was like wide open and we stayed in this place called the Hydro Majestic, which is overly fancy and old. Like there's piano and ballrooms and stuff everywhere and like all, older people stuff. Like that's a place I would never have gone by myself or with my family.
Yeah, my
But
family cannot afford to
well,
stay in that place.
the price and also the sort of interest, like it's typically like older, more wealthy, more like interested in just
Like cruise
sitting.
people. It's like the mountain cruise.
It's funny you say that because as we walked through, it's a very long and narrow, again like a train sort of hotel because it's on the cliff edge. And as you walk through, it's like different rooms with different vibes. And I kept walking and say, oh, it feels like being on a cruise ship where you just walk and then on the left there's it feels like Titanic on the top floor where they have like 7 forks and knives and they're eating all dressed up in suits with the piano. And then you go to the next one and it's a smoking room and it's all red and green and crazy. Yeah, that was super cool. But all that to say, this second day we checked in the rooms after the train ride and we went hiking in the Blue Mountains. So imagine 30 designers and developers. Not everyone is extremely like mountain goat fit and keen to. So that was a pretty simple hike. But then we did a second one for those who wanted more, and then switched to board games. And then I had an amazing dinner. Again, one long table, hallway track, and we've never done that concept, and there was some chaos to it. But the whole idea was like, if you have one table, it sucks because you're sitting here and you just have 3 persons for the whole dinner, and you didn't choose, and you're like, oh, we never had time to talk. So the way it was organized is there was a 3-course meal, and between each meal, people had to grab their stuff they had started eating with and stand behind the chair, and then be allocated a new place completely randomized. And a couple of people were like, oh, this is too much effort. But it was so cool because you start dinner having the salad and having a chat with like the 6, 8 people you see kind of in your close proximity. And then you just get up and then this is it's the same setup, but brand new faces. And it just kept going like this. And what I liked is, again, they planted the seed. And then after the dinner was finished, some music started and drinks and whatever. And people kept just getting up and going somewhere else because they had kind of saw the benefit and the this is so cool, you just jump into the next kind of segment of the discussion. So yeah,
That's
this
really cool. Like
yeah
that they were so intentional about trying to mix up those groups, and it's really really good idea starting with that kind of social presentation stuff right at the start where people are presenting about like
mhm,
things that they're interested in or things that they've been doing at home. It gives you all of this like prompting to then have something to talk to those people about. So then when you're on the train, you're sitting with different people and you already might have some topics to talk about there. And then you're probably walking with a different group of people. And then this dinner being like the first group that you sit down with and then randomizing all of it. Like it sounds like
yeah
there was lots of opportunities to meet lots of different people. Because usually if you have that kind of like, if it's more like a conference where you're like you have a table or whatever that you're allocated to, and then when you come back the next day you're allocated to that same table, like you're talking to the same people over and over again.
yeah
It's really nice to be so intentional about mixing up those groups and getting people talking to
yeah
people
yeah
they're not familiar with.
yeah. And if there's humans have that thing that if you sit at a table once and then you get up, no big deal. But if you sit again and you pick the second spot, the same spot again, from there on, it's you claim this is my spot. Like I don't know if you do that at a conference, the first session you're at a table and then you pick another one, there's no big deal. But if you do it twice, then you're like, okay, now I leave here, I'm gonna leave my bag, and this I'm expecting the other people to be the same. And so by breaking off this mold, they kind of said, hey, there's a better way to do this. Keep just rotating. And
It
the
would have
other
been
thing,
good
yeah,
if they had like set you all up with like, you need to plant the seed in other people in your conversations about like specific really niche things about your life, and then we're going to have like a big kind of like
quiz
treasure
trivia.
hunt or like kind of trivia thing at the end,
Mm-hmm.
where you get like a bingo card of people that you need to allocate to particular like really weird things that they're able to
That's
do.
a great idea. Man, today we actually filled a form about like how we could improve for next year. And that's a really good idea. They were like, can you think of other ways to kind of encourage mingling and then kind of like a reward, like in a funny, like what you described is exactly that. Yes, Brent, I was talking about the Hydro Majestic. That's where we stayed. I knew nothing about it until last week, and yeah, it's a pretty cool place.
For the audio listeners, Simon just pulled up a comment from the live audience.
Yes. I forgot that we
who
not everyone or almost no one is watching live. Although I see 105 people, but that's probably people clicking on. So you can see there's a comment from Twitter from Brent, and then there's a comment from YouTube, and we're streaming both on YouTube and Twitter, and it's pretty cool that the comments come both mixed.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining. So yeah, this was my last week. I know that was a short question and long answer, but this was a very special week. And anyone listening that works remote and is trying to, I know every remote company is like, oh, we need to find ways to make people feel connected and create games and stuff. Man, one thing that came the first day was this concept of mandatory fun. It's like if you say, hey, we're organizing this thing, you should join, no one joins. You almost have to force people to do it, and then they might like it. But then again, if you do this, then it wears out really quickly. So it sucks because it costs a lot of money for companies. But organizing an in-person stuff and making it as focused on human aspects and not work aspects is the golden recipe. Like if this gathering was like, hey, let's ultimately the team wants us to work better together and be more performant and happier. And it definitely did this, but if it was all focused on like, let's hone in on how we do the design to dev handover and everything was all related to how we work together, I feel like it would have a better impact short term on like team collaboration, but like the whole, damn man, I feel connected to this team and I love the people I work with. This is what makes you wake up in the morning and want to do your best work way more than, oh yeah, I know that I should communicate my intent on Figma with like a little post-it note, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. And also having such variety in it. Like if you just had one type of thing that you were doing over and over again, some people would really enjoy that and engage with that, and then other people would be like, I don't care about this.
Yeah.
And so having those like having the like, some work / tech focused talk stuff, some personal life talk stuff, a like walk outside and more of like physical activity, and then board games and strategic stuff, like having those different categories of things that you're doing that different people might engage with more or less, is a really good way to bring people together. And I imagine like, again, find people that are interested in similar sort of stuff. Like you're doing a walk and you're like, why are all these guys stuck back here? Let's go to the top. Why are they walking so slowly? And then you realize that, there are some other people you work with who are really into bushwalks and fitness and things. Or if you're playing board games and you realize like someone else is super, super strategic and taking it way too seriously, which is what I would be if I if I had joined. I love board games and get way too serious and way too strategic about it. And so you might realize that there's someone else who's very similar that you have more to talk about at work, and you might catch up with them outside of work and make a new friend.
Yep. I gotta say one more thing. The order of doing these conferences thing first and then go outside, do some activities was phenomenal. And I don't know about you, but when I think about my experience going at conferences is after the conference is where you have all these ideas, you want to talk to people. And typically there's a dinner where people get very drunk and then you don't really talk about something very interesting and then everyone goes home, or there's whatever, like everyone leaves straight away
Or a
and you're like, oh,
DJ playing really, really loudly, and you've
loud
got a bunch
music,
of like
yeah.
introverted tech people that are like shifting further and further away from the DJ, trying to find a quiet corner where they're not feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, exactly. Or like karaoke or like stuff that is great, but it kind of it takes away from like the follow up conversation hallway track thing. And for me, when I went to Epic WebConf, for example, in the after party, I was still drained from my talk and the whole energy drain. And I talked to a few people, but I kind of like folded back to my, oh, I know these people already. I don't have to do small talk and mingle and stuff. But then we went snowboarding the next day, and this is where like the complete you out in the nature, and that's when you're like, this is the perfect way to do a follow up conversation, and you see people under a different angle. They're not wearing their like company T-shirt and microphone and like the typical dev stuff. They're like in their snowboard gear or like they're hiking, and you realize, oh, they're really sporty, or that's when you start talking about hobbies and human aspects. And so doing something outdoors that involve exercise and intentionally no tech gear, no phones, or like I wouldn't do like a orienteering thing where you have an iPad app and you have to go and tap and solve. Like it would create a nerdy thing, but the whole idea of like, hey, leave computer, like you know how every time you meet a dev they have a backpack and you know they have a laptop, and like this part is taken away intentionally, and I thought that was the best. And most retreats should definitely consider this because we spend our lives glued to the screen. So getting outside and touching grass literally it turns out to be a great thing.
For sure. Yeah, they were definitely the most enjoyable times for me as well at the Superbase offsite. Was just the time hanging out outside of the organized activities. Yeah. Simon's, do you want to describe what you're doing visually?
Yeah, I'm ignoring John as he talks because Brent in the comments saw that I'm wearing the Manly basketball hoodie. I used to play and coach, and my kids used to play in Manly. We used to live in Manly or Narrabeen, and Brent just mentioned that he lives in Manly. It's the northern beaches of Sydney. It's a really nice place. Quite busy for my liking, but yeah, it's great. When I was younger and kid-free and responsibility-free, I absolutely adored living there. You can catch a ferry to the city. You can walk everywhere. There's stuff happening. Beautiful beach, beautiful surf, a little headland with like little possums and wallabies. It's awesome.
This episode brought to you by Manly Beaches.
The Manly Beaches.
Team. But yeah, something that I really enjoyed about the Superbase offsite was it was in Thailand. So everyone in the company was there in Thailand, and there's certain foods that you should be a little bit careful about eating in Thailand, and drinking the water directly from the tap can make some people sick. So basically, most of the team was getting sick in some way throughout the week. And so I came up with this awesome idea of creating an app or like a game where you get points for not getting sick. So if every day that you spend not throwing up or having diarrhea or some kind of sickness or a sore stomach, every day that you make it through, you get a certain number of points. But you also get more points for the riskier food that you eat. And so you've got this incentive to take some risks with some like really delicious street food that's going to be like the most incredible thing you've eaten, but might come back to haunt you later in the night. And so, yeah, the most fun I had was like pitching this idea to everyone that I was talking to anytime we were like sitting down for dinner or like out somewhere in between an activity we were doing, just brainstorming the idea of how this app could be built and how you could kind of reward points for not getting sick, but also incentivize people to take risks with delicious food. It was a lot of fun.
That's amazing. Did anyone go for the Hail Mary and tried like uncooked seafood
Well, that was
and a
it. Like
glass of tap water? Yeah,
the
highest
highest
reward.
tier was like chicken sashimi. If you can eat raw chicken in Thailand
Street
and
food, yeah.
survive to tell the tale, then you win the game. We didn't
That's
actually end
awesome.
up deploying it, just from ran out of time to actually build it. But all of the like talking about how it would be built
Yeah,
was a lot of fun.
this is great, man. You've got great ideas. On a serious note, though, uh, part of what we're trying to do with this gathering and post gathering is like find ways to improve the how we do remotely. Like Thinkmill has been working remote for a while, and I joined as a remote first employee who would show up in the office once a month or so before COVID was a thing. Yes, that, and at the time most people were in the office, but they're very open to people working from anywhere. Like Thinkmill is the most furthest away from the company where the founders want to control their people and ass in chair and like I want to know that you start at 8 a.m. and punch in the like it's a collective of really self driven and directed humans that trust each other, and so there was never this like, oh, but I don't, if you're working home, I don't know if you're watching YouTube or doing whatever. But
YouTube's my job. I
yeah,
have to
I
watch
actually watch YouTube because this is my job.
Twitter and YouTube. That's 90% of where I spend my day because I
We
need
have
to.
to.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
research.
But yeah, we've identified that with people in the office and then people remote, that you have to put certain things in place. Otherwise, the remote people always miss out because decisions are made in the office and the context is missing. So we I was helping the team. Actually, one of my jobs early before COVID was to help Thinkmill work better remote and sort of move to remote first, even if people are in the office, and like just do stuff you would do remotely even if you're in the office, if that makes sense. Like try to move the source of truth and communication, everything somewhere in Notion instead of like on a whiteboard. And it started as silly as taking a screenshot a photo of the whiteboard and then putting in Notion so people can see it. But I've helped put stuff in place, and funnily or not funnily enough, COVID hit, and we were like, oh shit, we have to, we are now remote only because of not a choice but life design. And turns out that what we had put in place kind of helped. But now, like long tail after all this, where people went back to the office purely for a social slash preference slash my house has screaming kids and the office is a beautiful air conditioned space, which is where I can do good work. But we're trying to find ways to make this remote company as good as possible working remotely. And one of the discussion topics was sort of exactly what you kind of described. We were like, we recognize that we need to intentionally bring more of our human aspects to work. Like it's the cliche, bring your whole self to work, but like the don't just talk about work and code and nerd stuff because everyone has different interests, and when you bring them, it kind of like people exactly how we did the share day, like you discover new aspects and have conversations. So we're looking for ways to have incentives for people to share more, like because we have these channels like makers channel where people talk about woodworking, and we have these music channels where people share what we try to have. All these social channels. Our Slack is the big like main center, like city square center, whatever, where people hang out. But we want to find a way to kind of incentivize and then reward, like you were saying, like maybe like a little gamification where if someone shares something about their weekend and then like a little tip on how to like a cooking recipe or whatever, they just get some points. And then at the end of a term or whatever, we have like some tallies and like scoreboards and leaderboards. And that's I think what you described with the app is pretty much exactly this, but like in a distributed normal work life, not during a retreat, but during the day-to-day life. That would be cool to put in place some sort of like little quest that if you go fulfill these things, you score 5 points or 7 points, and then you end up like the winner gets some sort of like prize, or yeah, that'd be really cool to put in place.
I actually started building a similar thing to this when when our second child came along.
Mm-hmm.
Once we had two, everything became a little bit more
Chaotic.
challenging, and like the time that we had to, like, quality time we had to spend with, you know, all the
Each
different
other.
people in the
Yeah.
family uh, became a little bit more challenging. And so I started building an app that was similar to that, but for being a good dad, or just being a good friend or a good partner or whatever. And so had like a list of different, like, just small things that I could do, like, just like, look someone in the eye and give them a cuddle, or like it could go all the way to, like, go for a walk to the playground and play for an hour or whatever,
Yeah.
or go, I don't know, make homemade pizza or something. All these different, like, I thought of all of these different activities that I do with my kids or with my partner, and then broke it up into like little, like, points, essentially. Like, is this like, just a small thing that I can do really quickly? Is it a medium thing, or is it like a big all day, large thing?
Yeah.
Which sounds kind of gross. Like, there's one aspect of it where it's like gamified parenting and like only spend time with your kids to get points, which is
Mm.
gross. But the intention behind it was like, there isn't much time. And so having a list of all of these things that we could do allocated to different blocks of time meant that if we just had like half an hour until the next thing, there's like a small thing that I could do. And the reward is, like a much closer connection with your kid or your partner or whoever. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, it's a good way to be intentional about that kind of stuff.
It's amazing. Like you said, it may sound gross, like, oh, cool, you need an incentive to be a good parent, but at the same time, like, we have all these. That's how you educate kids. You have the little stickers and stuff, and then you have a reward, and you get 5 stickers, then you can go watch a movie or whatever. And that's how you build habits. You kind of reinforce positive behavior, and this should not stop with adulthood, because we tend to forget, even if we know being a good parent is like putting the phone away and spend time with the kids. But sometimes, if you're not reminded, you're gonna miss opportunities to scratch that little habit and say, "Hey, I had 5 minutes. I could have just done this instead of randomly scrolling Twitter or just finding some gardening stuff to do to keep." Like, I really, really like this, and yeah, like,
Yeah.
basically, I forgot how it's called, but this rewards app, basically, like, it's like a habit reinforcing, positive reinforcing stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, just one
And
thing.
just like having
Yeah,
that prompt to remind you, because the default when there is no time is that,
yeah,
you just do what you need to do. And so having something that can, a list of small things that you can do in that small amount of time you have. And a big one was, yeah, putting the phone away. Like, if I noticed that I was looking at my phone, or another quick parenting tip, if you do find that you're looking at your phone too much, when you want to be spending more like engaged time with your kids, uh, putting my phone on, if you triple click on I think it's by default, if you triple click on an iPhone, then it goes into like black and white mode.
oh yeah,
um, and so you can, I notice that I'm more aware when I look at my phone, because it looks weird because it's black and white.
subtle reminder. Yeah,
Yeah, because I think, like, by default it's too easy to just like, oh, like, we're gonna go outside, what's the weather today or whatever, and you look at your phone and you look at the weather, and then you accidentally, or without thinking about it, open
drift.
Twitter, and then
Yeah.
you spend a whole bunch of time just, yeah, the attention just gets taken by something.
Mm-hmm.
And so having the screen black and white means I'm more aware of, like, I'm actually looking at my phone, because it looks strange because it's black and white. And behind the scenes there's a whole bunch of psychology stuff about, like, things are designed with particular colors to grab your
Trigger.
focus
Yeah,
and
yeah.
grab your attention. And so by having it black and white, it's not as interesting to look at, so you don't get those like dopamine things firing off while
Yeah.
you're looking at your phone. But it also makes me more aware of the fact that I'm looking at it when maybe I don't want to intentionally be looking at it.
This is great stuff, man. This is also, like, in terms of UX and UI, like, disabled elements are usually grayed out, or kind of like the saturation is taken away, exactly for what you said. It's like less attention grabby, and we kind of simulate this thing as, oh, it's currently like offline, or like not interactable, interactive or versionable.
Yeah.
I just want to circle back to one thing because it made me giggle while you were like, oh, it's you're like there's a small task like putting your phone away, it's 5 points, and then there's a task like taking the dogs for a walk, it's 2 hours, maybe it's 10 points. And if you are really gross it out that the incentive, it sounds like you're making agile and story points for your family life. So maybe you can have a family scrum master with like backlog grooming and
Yeah.
retro session.
How do we do this sprint? All right, family, let's have a retroactive. How do we, or retrospective? Let's see, how did we do this last week? Does everyone feel closer to each other or further away?
As a father, I want to, the
By the way, I'd
story.
like to point out I'm winning. I'm at the top of the leaderboard. So this is what you all need to do to get up to this point.
But in all seriousness, what we're trying to solve at Thinkmill is what everyone's trying to solve since COVID, basically, unless they bring everyone back to the office. But then it's another sort of set of problems. You just fire everyone who's not near the office, which at Thinkmill would be more than half the company, probably. And also, I don't think anyone wants to force people to do that. But I was thinking, like, if we find a nice way to gamify the social involvement of people bringing more aspects of their lives and fun quirks and stuff, it's an amazing internal product, but it's also probably an amazing product that people would pay money for. Like when you're like, oh, I want to build a SaaS app, I don't have an idea. That seems like a very cool idea of like, and I'm saying this, I'm sure that there's companies that do exactly that. Slack in a way kind of does that, but that kind of try to bring people together. The other app I'm thinking of is Gather.com, which I use for my workshops with Epic Web, which is this real representation of a fake representation of a real world, where you have your headquarters with different rooms and office and desks, and people actually just log in and they walk to their table and they see who's here and they can go by the water cooler or just like kind of have it's kind of like Zoom, but you have a physical little person that you customize to look like yourself or whatever you want, and there's that presence in the place. So like you can have a skate park in the corner and just hang out, and it doesn't change anything. You're still at home behind your stupid computer, but you can pretend, hey, I'm a cool skater and I'm kind of flagging to the world I like skateboarding and outdoors by chilling there. Yeah, it's all this little gamification that kind of try to say, hey, remind people we're humans and we have a physical presence, and let's remember that instead of just another Zoom meeting. And then you confuse the frustration of remote work and Zoom calls and the energy drain of all these Zoom calls, and then you forget that there are real people behind each little square.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is a
But
great topic, though.
I think that this idea can be applied to so many things where you like if you want to incentivize yourself to do something. Yeah, you're right, it's just habits. Like it's developing habits. And so you could apply it to like, your work Slack, and so you want to reach out to people more often, and so you develop a system where you get some points or whatever for like every week you reach out to someone to catch up for coffee, someone that you don't see very often.
Yep.
Or you just you choose to compliment someone once a week. You decide, I'm going to find someone who's done something cool and I'm just going to shout them out publicly and say, or privately or whatever, just reach out to them and say, it was really
Make
cool that
them
you did
feel
this
good.
thing. And that's
Yep.
going to like slowly build up a nicer relationship. But yeah, I find it so hard to do this remotely. Like you're talking about, it works really well when you get together and you actually meet these people, and it's just different to online. Even when you're trying to do these things, like you can do some foundational building of of culture and respect and appreciation and gratitude and all of that stuff. But it's just like seeing people in person is just a whole different thing. Like I remember when COVID kicked off, there was lots of, I was at realestate.com.au at the time,
Yep.
Australia's leading real estate company, real estate listing. Yeah. And we were like really intentional about trying to like, play games on a Friday afternoon, like remote games on a Friday afternoon, and
Yep.
have beers and stuff. And it just, like you were saying before, like it becomes this mandatory thing. Like initially it's fun and it has this novelty, but then it just like
It
becomes this.
becomes another Zoom meeting and it's Friday
Yeah,
afternoon and you're like, oh, more time on Zoom. I'd honestly rather kick the ball with my son or walk the dog.
yeah,
So it's really
totally.
hard.
Like that's going to make me feel more engaged at work is not being at work and going and spending time with my family, doing something different away from this screen,
Yeah.
and then coming back and feeling refreshed.
Yep.
And so it's really like, there are, it's definitely important to intentionally do some things to make it a more positive community that you're working in. But it's really hard
Yep.
to replicate remotely. I
It's
think
tough, man.
just occasionally you need that time, like once a year, once every 6 months, where you just get everyone together, whether that be your workplace and get everyone together, or if it's like a conference that you and a whole bunch of people in your like online community decide to go to this specific conference and you can all hang out in person.
Yep.
It just, makes such a difference.
Yeah. I
So when are you
believe,
coming to Melbourne, Simon? When are you coming to see me?
yeah, we need we need a
There's Simon
NavBar
I've never
gathering
met in real life.
one day where we share each other's recording techniques and then we go hiking behind your house in the state forest. I like this.
That would
Um,
be lovely.
I wanted to say something that yes, incentives and game. Yeah, we had that point of like mandatory fun because we need to force people, and that doesn't work at all. So that's why I think finding a way to gamify stuff and make people accidentally do the right thing because there's a little benefit or like a little reminder is the way. And I just thought while you were saying that, like, because I know exactly the feeling. We have this squad lunch where the company pays for everyone to order lunch once a month. So we have 30 people and then the squads of 4 or 5 people that kind of look after each other as at a more like atomic level, which I think is really cool. It has nothing to do with work. Most people in the squad work on different projects, but it's more like little buddy system where like if you something's not right, you just got a little network to tap into before like going to the whole team. And we have this squad lunch. Everyone's got a budget up to $30 to order lunch on Uber Eats or whatever. And then we go on Zoom and we for an hour we just eat together. And sometimes we do cross squad lunches with like double squads, so it's 8 people instead of 4. And on paper it sounds amazing, but like it's always at lunchtime. And typically when you work remote, you work really hard and you're like, oh, at lunch break I'll go for a walk, take the dogs, go outside. And then you're like, we have squad lunch. That means I have to be on Zoom for an hour between 12:30 and 1:30. And it becomes this thing that should be like a really nice team bonding stuff becomes like, it is cool, but I'm gonna be on Zoom with the same people I would talk about work, and we'll talk about something else. But it might go like it's just being on Zoom, and then you you don't skip the lunch break because you have a lunch break, but you skip
Yeah.
the eyes rest and
Yeah, that's right. You get off the meeting and you're like, well,
I need a
the
break
lunch
now.
break bracket is done. I want to get to this other stuff that I needed to do in the afternoon, but now I need a break from the screen. Like I need
Exactly,
to
yeah.
go and get some fresh air and walk
Yep.
away, look at something
It's
different.
so sneaky. Like everyone's like by 1:30 is like, all right, I better jump in. I've got some work to do. I got a meeting. I gotta jump on this call with the client. And you can tell everyone's like, oh, but crap, like I didn't have I had a nice lunch and but I didn't have my break. So what I was thinking that crossed my mind is that um, the incentive could be intentionally something that takes you away from the screen. So like some sort of like photo competition, or like if you nature
That's
like a nature photo competition, or like some hiking stuff, or take a photo of yourself in a place that you obviously have to hike a little bit to get to, like
yeah.
this sort of stuff, like a almost like little quests. Like everyone where they live, there's a few things that you can do, and maybe instead of giving $30 a month for people to have lunch and force them to eat while watching each other eat, maybe do it once every 3 months and give them $100 and say, go do like I don't know what you can do with $100, but you can do something cool, maybe a little paragliding or a hang gliding flight or something, and just take a selfie and just do one cool thing.
Yeah.
I think that there would be like the key would be to incentivize people to do something that is completely not screens and technology related. So go cook
Yeah,
a really nice meal and take a photo of like just stuff like this. I think
that's a
is
great
probably
idea. Yeah, like here's $100. You can't keep the $100. You have to spend as much as you can of the budget on doing something. And so, yeah, do you go and buy really fancy ingredients and make something really nice? Do you go and
Yep.
find like we've got like a treetop obstacle course thing near us where you're like elevated up in the air, climbing on ropes and stuff. Like, go and do something like that. Here's $100. Go and either do something close in your community and then take some photos and like tell a story to the team about it.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic idea. We
Yeah,
had this kind of similar when COVID happened. Someone had this awesome idea of like, okay, REA or realestate.com.au is like a huge company in Australia, heaps of employees. They're spread all over Melbourne where we were. Could we, like when we were in lockdown, everyone got locked down to a 5K radius. So 5 kilometers was as far as you could go from your house for like months. It was the longest lockdown in the entire world in Melbourne. But yeah, there were so many like little overlapping 5K radiuses that it was like, well, what if we have some like object, like, you know, a little like award or something, a little like trophy. And what if we could like find out every overlapping 5K in all of where everyone is and see if we can like do a relay race of overlapping 5K distances to see how far we can travel this trophy from like one side all the way across the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As in, if someone's like 5Ks from someone else, they can hand over the trophy and then that person can go 5Ks back to their house. And then they also have 5Ks away from their house that they can go hand it to the next person and then the next person. It was such a cool idea. But the whole point of COVID was the whole point of the lockdown was to, you know, get people to isolate from each other and not be close to each other. So it ended up getting shut down by the company as not a good idea.
Maybe you can do the handover, like, find a way to symbolize the handover by like, or the drop the pin or whatever. Just you can prove that you're within like 50 meters from each other at this point in time, and say like this is the COVID safe trophy handoff.
Yeah.
But that's a great idea. I think I want to lean in on that. This discussion we had today, I want to almost make the Thinkmill team listen to this episode, because we're trying to brainstorm ways to improve the mandatory fun. And I think really the key unlock, which is hard for tech companies, is to do something not tech related intentionally, because most other things will end up being a drawing game on the canvas on Zoom. Like it always revolve to go on Zoom and then do something together. But enforce like audio calls, walking meetings and stuff like this.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Walking and
Zoom without the camera. Just put the audio and it can be a WhatsApp call or iMessage, whatever. Everything has call only. Even Twitter, you can do audio calls now. Just do a call and go walk the dogs and not look at the screen and try to maintain the present and think what am I showing, or just I think I'm gonna lean triple lean on this. Look, this has been another episode where we wanted to talk about the future, but we have an intrinsic I think today was great actually, this like natural topic of going from my remote retreat to how to do remote in family, in work, and how to incentivize being a better parent and disconnect from tech. I do think we should move to, unless you've got something else on the topic, move to the sick pics that I don't have one.
I'm just going to move to the section where I'm not going to engage. I do have a sick pic, and it's kind of in relation
I'll
to
have
what
one
we've been
too,
talking
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I've got two. I don't know which way do I go. They both kind of came to me as we were talking through the episode.
Yep.
I think I'm going to do this one. All right, schedule your evenings. This is going to be another one that sounds gross initially, like giving yourself points for engaging with your children. That's gross on the surface level, but when you dig a little deeper, the intention is good. So schedule your evenings. This is something that me and my wife have only started doing like quite recently.
Yeah.
But we found like we always default to doing the same thing. And so like, there's very little time that we have after we put the kids to bed before we need to go to sleep, so that we have had enough sleep to get woken up in the morning by our kids. So there's only
Hmm.
like a small bracket of time, maybe like an hour or maybe 2 hours a
Oh
night,
wow, that's
maybe.
a lot.
Yeah, okay. It's really not that long. It's probably an hour a night. And so we always kind of default to just doing the same thing. Like if we're watching
Uh-huh.
a TV show or whatever, then we just default to watching that. And when the NBA finals were happening, my team won the entire NBA championship. If anyone was wondering, good
We
job,
didn't
Celtics.
even mention that the three
We
days
haven't
after it
even
happened.
talked about it.
I know.
Oh, all right, next episode, a whole
Boston
episode on
Celtics.
basketball. That's what I know you're all waiting to hear.
Mm.
Anyway, when the NBA finals were happening, me and my wife are both really into it, and so um, because we only have that chunk of time, usually we're watching one game over like a few nights. But that just became the default, was we would just watch that every single night.
Yeah.
And then when the finals ended, we were like, all right, we need to be more intentional about doing like a little bit more of a variety of things. And so we came up with like a list of different things that we enjoy doing. So like playing like my sick pick from last week was a game called Baldur's Gate, which is
Yep.
awesome. Playing Baldur's Gate or playing a board game or doing some exercise, doing like a online, like a YouTube video exercise routine thing,
Yes.
or watching a TV show, coming up with some different things that we enjoy doing and then like allocating those to particular evenings. So on a Thursday, we always do this thing. On a Friday, we always do this thing. And it's just like it's so much nicer not just defaulting to like the thing where you're just an exhausted zombie and you just do the same thing over and over again. I found it's much nicer, like you feel better because you're being intentional about some other things that you want to do, like exercise and things like that. But also just like feeling more engaged and closer to the person that you might want to spend some time with. So
Yeah.
schedule your evenings, even if you don't have a partner, if you don't have kids that take up all of your time. Just add some variety to life, even if it's just like schedule your meals, like pick different things that you're going to cook,
Yep.
do different things that are fun that you want to do that you never find the time to do.
Awesome. I love how this is aligned with exactly what we were talking about before and being like almost not gamified, but like the by doing this, it sounds like a boring amount of work to have a calendar for your private life and schedule things like you said, but what it does is it removes decision making on the day to day. So
Exactly.
you wake up and you're like, oh cool, we're having creamy mushroom pasta and then we're playing this game. Okay, yeah, that sounds cool. And then you do it instead of like doing these micro decisions that kind of wear you in life, like kids go to school, oh, but I gotta think of dinner, but I gotta start work, let me answer an email, and then I'll maybe during lunch break I'll think of what I'm cooking tonight, and it's just like chaos ensues of all that. So having plan, and it doesn't probably take very long. Every family has 3, 4, 5 go-to meals, and then you just rotate them, allocate them to specific dates. It helps with the shopping as well because you know what you need for this week. This is pro tip of being an adult, I guess. Plan
Yeah,
and
my
use
wife was
calendars.
telling me it was after we decided to do this as validation for what we had done. But there's this thing about pre-committing to things, and so if there's things that you want to do, so exercise is a good example. If you're like, I want to exercise, I'll exercise 3 nights a week, but I won't like pick those nights. I'll just decide each night, like right now, do I feel
Yep.
like exercising or do I not?
Surprise, surprise, you will not do it.
Surprise, surprise. You'd be like, well, tomorrow night will be the one of 3 nights or whatever, or the next night. And so by like pre-committing to things and
Yeah.
allocating it to a specific night, saying, I've already made this decision. On Tuesday night, I'm going to go for a walk for half an hour, or I'm going to go to the gym or whatever. Picking that you do that on that specific night means you've already made that decision and you've already pre-committed to it. And
Yep.
you are so much more likely to stick to it when you're not just kind of making the decision in the moment. You're
On the
presented
fly.
with
Yeah.
like, oh, I have half an hour until I need to go to bed. Am I going to exercise tonight? No, I'll exercise tomorrow. So
Yep.
pre-committing to things makes you much more likely to actually see it through.
Facts. Yes. Yesterday, I had this exact dilemma. Like I didn't do any exercise, and then in the evening, I was like, oh, it's 8:30. Maybe I can go for a quick half an hour, 1 hour walk with the dogs. And it's dark and it's cold, and there's so many reasons not to do it. And obviously, I did not do it. Now, tonight, like every Wednesday, and it's the case Monday as well, it helps because it's a team sport, but I have basketball schedule. Like I play in teams. We are in a championship with like scheduled games. Not once am I gonna be, I don't really feel like playing basketball. It's Wednesday, you go play basketball. You finish work at 5, cook dinner, 5:30, leave the house, go play basketball for 2 hours. Family eats while I play, come back, I eat my own meal. This is what we do. And when I look forward every Wednesday because there's the NavBar. Same with the podcast. Yeah, we start recording. If we just say, should we do it this morning? It would just get pushed off. I really, really like this scheduling. And why not take it to the next level and schedule more things like evening activities, which typically, naturally you think, no, I want to be open. It's family free. Like I'm already busy at work. I don't want my life to feel like work. But planning doesn't really make it feel like work. It's just optimizing for you committing to what you've decided. I love.
Yeah, you're planning to do the things that you know that you want to do, like exercise or like doing a cooking class or something, like something fun that you're always feeling like you wish you had the time to do. Scheduling it doesn't make it just like soulless work. It just means that you're actually like
making the time.
Yeah, exactly. Making the time.
Yeah. So it's the incentivize the thing, like give you the incentive is the decision is made and you've decided and that's what you're going to do. The same happened to me with this, when you said pre-commit to something, it's work related, but when I wanted to do my Epic Web stuff, for a good month and a half, I was completely overwhelmed with the fact that I work full time and then I have these 70 videos to record and I was like, I'll never gonna be able to do it. Should I take a week holiday? Should I what? And then I was like, maybe I'll try one every day, but then I can't feel like it. And then there was some stupid reason I was like, I'm going to Newcastle with my son next week. I take a week off for basketball. I don't want to have to work or stress about work. So how about I decide that I record all 70 videos and edit them while I work full time this week? And that was a completely abnormal and stupid and unhealthy decision, but I've done it and I record it and I find myself enjoying it. And then now it's done. And I don't know if you've seen Ken's tweets, but it should in the next 2 weeks sometimes release. I've done all I have to do. And this is such a big weight off my shoulders. And the only reason it happened is because I pre-committed to it.
For sure.
So that's the life tip right there. Good job.
The advent calendar, like we're halfway through the year, and so now is probably a good time to start thinking, what's something that I want to commit to do
12
in
days
December?
Yeah.
Because the December advent calendar is a great way to do something every single day, and so I'm planning to do an advent calendar of content of like Postgres theory, little Postgres tips and tricks that you could learn. Yeah. And so it's such a good way to commit to, like, publicly say, I'm going to do this thing, and you can watch a new video on it every single day, and you just kind of chip away at this bigger, larger thing. Because I'd love to do like a massive Postgres course. But
it's too big. It's too big conceptually.
It's such a massive thing, and I've got other things that I need to commit to in work time. And
amazing, man.
Yeah, and so it's a way that you can just kind of chip away at, here's like 25, or if you want to just do a random month, it doesn't have to be December. You could do like 30 or 31 days, like Wes Boss's JavaScript 30. Perfect example of that. Here's just 30 like challenges that you can do with JavaScript. Committing to something, pre-committing to something like that, doing something daily. A little chunk of something daily is a great way to get it done.
This is the golden recipe, right? Pre-commit and then chunk into small bite-sized stuff, so you can eat the whole. Like how do you eat an elephant? You're like, I don't know if I want to, but if I was, probably one bite at a time. So you just have to cut tiny little cubes of elephant. Sorry, I don't want to bring this gross topic to the. But yeah, you see, this is very common, like the 100 days of code hashtag for beginners. That like, for 100 days, I'm gonna learn something and share what I know. Unfortunately, this hashtag was kind of like hijacked by growth hackers and grifters and stuff to try to. They would tag this to just get the whole community to see it. But the idea was great. It's like for 100 days, you do 5 minutes a day of the same thing, and you're gonna have, eventually you'll get to 10,000 hours if you do it long enough, and then you have mastery.
Yeah,
amazing
absolutely.
pick.
Do you have a sick pick for me before we quickly wrap up?
Yes, so sick pick. I was going to sick pick that last time, but the the in real life event stuff took over. So it's also very aligned to what we discussed. My sick peak is something I've done a few weeks before, and it's camping off grid, no electricity, no hot water,
Mm.
no internet, no reception, no nothing.
Proper
But
camping. What used to
proper
just be
camping.
called camping.
Yeah, not going to a caravan park and plug into the water and electricity and Wi-Fi, and there's a bathroom with showers that I get cleans every 2 hours. No, like go camping in. You drive far enough, which it doesn't have to be far in Australia, but somehow we still made it far. You drive where there's no people, no reception, none of the things that you kind of benefit from day to day. And what it does is the actual opposite of what you described, which is plan your evenings and calendar. This the completely 180 degrees turn, and we go there. We don't really know what the weather will be like. Once we're there, we don't have a way to know what the weather will do because we're like off everything. And we know it's gonna be cold, so we pack warm clothes and we're gonna make a fire and play music by the fire and have a few beers and whatever. And the kids will ride bikes and jump in the river, and we have blow up lilos and glide down the like. This is the overall plan, and we did this for the long weekend, like a 3-day break. And we rocked up, set up the tent, and you're like, okay, now what? What should we do next? And kids are like, oh, can we dig a hole? Can we play with sticks? Oh yeah, start there. That's a good idea. And my family and another 2 families of friends that have kids the same age, and then my wife's parents as well came. So it's kind of like we were about 10, 12, 15 people. Very low key. No one cares about what anyone's wearing because we all rugged up in like basically being in your cozy pajamas for 3 days. And we did nothing but I didn't ride bike, but the kids rode bikes and just sit by the fire and go for little walks and stuff. And again,
And
you don't track your steps or whatever. Just like forget everything for a bit. And then we did this for 3 days, and most people loved it, but me as a engineer looking at screens and technology all the time, the first day I had this, but what if Astro.js releases a release and I need to be on top of it? No, shut up, brain. You don't need to be on top. If it happens, you could take another 3 months break and then discover the new thing, and then hey, make a video, and you would still be relevant. So the second day I was like, actually, I do not need to constantly be on top of everything and be the first one to break the news. Newsflash, I live in Australia with my time zone. I will always wake up to someone who already broke the news. So why would I try do this anyway? So the sick pick is get in a situation that forces you to completely cut off with technology. And also incentively, when it gets dark, you're like, I'm tired, I might go to bed. And then you wake up when the sun comes out, and it's called the circadian rhythm or something. I don't know exact word, but yes, the science shows that if you go camping long enough without any devices, you can adjust to this, which turns out to be very beneficial for your biological clock, especially in winter where the sun goes down early and stays down late. So you end up sleeping 10 hours, and it's like, God damn, 3 nights in a row sleeping 10 hours. It's like such a life trick to replenish.
Yeah, we last autumn, I guess, we bought all of the camping gear. We've never had the camping gear to be able to go camping as a family, and so we bought all of the things, and then our camping trip got postponed or cancelled 3 times, which it's now probably too cold to camp with the little ones for their first time camping. But once it warms up again, planning to do a big camping trip with friends. It's a lovely way to spend some time as a family and get some proper downtime away from technology and screens and everything else.
Yeah. How young are we talking? How young are your youngest?
2 and 5.
Yeah. So I'm going to challenge this. Turns out camping sleeping bags is just about the coziest, warmest thing you can be in.
It's true.
The only trick is to get warm and then manage to take your clothes off and jump in the sleeping, or you can even sleep with your clothes on, which is what we ended up doing. But the camping in summer is horrible because you're sweaty and there's mosquitoes and flies and weird noises and people partying, and like it's the worst. Summer in Australia camping, it's just too hot, and you're in this canvas trapping heat and humidity. When you go camping in winter, you need to be able to make a fire, because you're gonna be sitting by the fire, and as the night gets colder, you go closer and like everyone ends with the hand on top of the flame, pretty much. And then you're like, okay, I think it's time to go to sleep. And you can see everyone kind of lining up the, okay, 7 steps to the left, take the jacket off, jump, wipe my feet, zip the sleeping bag, and then pray. You don't need to go to the toilet in the middle of the night, because this is the worst. But yeah, like you'll find out kids, very young kids, because I'm saying this not just conceptually, I've done it with my kids when they were really young. It's so easy. It's so much easier to camp in winter. You need good clothing and then a good sleeping bag, but then they sleep like absolute babies. They wrapped up. They never wake up till the morning. And then the morning they wake up, the first thing they want to do is just start a fire and be around the fire again. And it's, yeah, I found much more difficult to camp in summer with kids, because they're hot.
Good point, yeah.
They're hot, so they're gonna put their leg on top of the cover, and then mosquitoes bite the leg, and then they're itchy, and then it's actually much easier in cold winters. So
Yeah.
I would consider like not ruling it out completely. I know you live in Victoria, which is cold, but when we go camping, we go in mountainy areas that are as cold as Victoria.
Yeah, it's a good call. And like it's so much easier to warm up than it is to cool down. Like if it's hot inside your tent when you're trying to go to sleep at night, there's not really much that you can do.
You can't peel the skin layers, or
Yeah, that's right.
you
But if
hit
it's
the
like,
bottleneck. Yeah.
if it's cold and you've got some more clothes you can put on, or you've got like you've got like a sub-degree sleeping bag, then you'll be fine.
Yeah. Good sick picks, man.
All
I
right.
think that was one of my favorite episodes forever since we started, because it was focused on non-technical stuff. We still looked at each other on the screen to record this, but the mind was escaping somewhere.
Totally. Yeah. We should do this every week. No plans. We'll just.
Well, you
just
might
hit
have
record.
noticed we talk about technology less and less, because we kind of like lulling you into a lifestyle podcast instead of Postgres and Superbase and Thinkmill and Keystatic and all that stuff.
Quickly on the lifestyle thing, me and my wife were doing one of these high intensity interval training YouTube videos
nice.
last night, and it clicked for me that like that's where the success in YouTube is, because we like me and you create technical content, right? And so people watch that video and then they're done with that video. They're not going to rewatch it, or they might like rewatch it like a section to solve a problem, but then they're done. If you create like a lifestyle, or especially an exercise channel,
routine that you do again and again,
you embed in people's routines that they watch the same video every week. Like me and my wife at the moment are doing the same high intensity
you have the
interval
exact
every
same
Wednesday.
yeah.
And so every week we're giving them another view. And so if you like times that across all of the different people that come and happen to find this video and watch it, it's insane. Like the video we're watching has 10 million views, and it was only put out like a few months ago.
Because they watch it over and over. It's just like streams on Spotify, like music. It becomes your playlist, like your
Like
so,
I can't think of the tech version of that.
What is the video that people watch once a week? Oh,
exactly.
Let's
how do you
this.
embed it? Because once someone learns the topic, like they're not going to go back and watch it again.
They acquire the skill and then they move to the next need for.
Better than that, just one more thing. This thing has got me way too excited. One more thing, that in the video there's two people, and one of them is doing like the regular routine, and then the other one is doing like a variation version, which is slightly easier. And so not only have they created a video that you can watch every single week, but they've created like the easy version of the video and the hard version of the video. So even when you have gone like advanced beyond the beginner steps, you're still watching the same video. You still give it. It's insane.
Yep. You've described the economics of a repeating product, like deodorant, where it's finished, you buy another one, another one, another one. Or something you buy once, like a really, really good barista coffee machine, and it lasts you like 40 years. Finding a way to make something, subscription model is kind of that, but it sucks because, It's
But you
hard.
can't do it
You
with
gotta
content.
switch
You can do it with a
industry.
product, but you can't, like, what's the version where you have people coming back to the same YouTube video over and over again in the tech world? It
There's none.
doesn't,
No,
it's not possible.
people come back to the same concept. Like
Hmm.
you see, I will not name names, but there's very specific YouTubers that take an article and read it and comment on it, and they do this every day, and it becomes sort of like dev journalism. And that's that people like drink their coffee and watch that video as a routine, like like my exercise is to stay plugged in what's happening in the dev industry, but this is still a new video every day. There is no
Exactly,
way.
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Like, you might be watching, your channel might be embedded in their routine, but
yeah,
rewatching the same thing over and over again and just like skyrocketing the views. Like, they spend, half an hour doing an exercise routine. They
yep,
probably hand it off to like an agency to do the editing and stuff and make
yep.
it like really engaging and add music and things. But then they don't do anything after that point. They've worked maybe half an hour, paid someone a bit of money to do something, but then they have a video that people can watch over and over and over and over again. They don't need to like
We need to change
readdress this
industry.
video. They don't need to update it when some new version comes out. There's no new version of the exercises. You're
Yep,
just working out particular muscles in your body. It's
yep,
genius.
yep.
We're
Same
pivoting the podcast. We're an exercise podcast now.
I instantly thought I could do this with basketball shooting mechanics, like a
Yeah.
5 minute workout. And that would be a video. I would know how to teach this. I would know how to edit this. And then people, if they like it, they might watch it. But you have to frame it as not like, hey, I'm going to teach you 5 tips to shoot better. You have to frame it as a 10-minute shooting workout that will transform your basketball shooting career. And then you have to, guys, you're going to have to do this every morning. It's 5 minutes, do it every day for a year. And then say me in the comments, like, did something change? And then you get them to commit to this. And then that's 365 views for just one viewer.
Yeah.
You can't, unless you find a way to do a coding warm-up that people should do every morning before, like, all right, let's do like some stretching, and then we're gonna just turn an array of stuff, like we're gonna pop the last element and or shift it or shift and whatever, I don't even know.
But the problem is, like, with tech, the thing that you're trying to work out is like being presented with an unfamiliar problem and like seeing a pattern in it and being able to find the answer. And so if you're presented with the same problem, you already know the answer. You're not like the bit that you need to work out with coding is like not something you can do the same thing over and over again. You could do like a different variation. So maybe if you had like, all right, do this routine daily or weekly or whatever, but like it's a list of 25 things. And so the first time, like as in you have this, I'm making this very confusing.
JavaScript 30
explain,
is exactly what it is. Yeah.
You have 25 options for the first exercise, and then you have 25 options for the second exercise, 25 options for the third one. And the idea is that you pick a new one from that. So you're still watching the same video over and over again, but you're
but then you're still producing 25 freaking videos for every step. So it's you're back to making.
No, I don't. I mean the same video, but you're saying this is like, we're going to learn how to use like the array.shift method. And here are 25 different slightly different ways that you could challenge yourself. But gotta solve this. Oh, we've got to pivot this now.
The only problem is I'm gonna solve it for you. Why it doesn't work? Programming is not a physically straining activity that needs warm up. So you can skip the scales. Like you play guitar, you're gonna do your pentatonic scales and like normal scales and minor and majors, and singing you go through the scales. And basketball, you go through your warm-up routine where you jog slow, and then you do little jumps and squats, and then you ramp up to get ready for now I'm ready. When we code, we don't go like, okay, let's do 10 air squats and crack our finger. We don't do any of that. We just sit, open the screen, and look at the VS Code. Where was I? Oh yeah, okay, and you go straight. Which is also why it's a very unhealthy profession, because we just like roll into it, and we can do it all day and then roll to bed, and then we don't realize that it's
do it all
terrible.
night. And
you can also do it all night.
Yeah.
Oh my god, what an episode! That basically what we're telling you is like, get out of tech, because tech is good, but pull your head outside and look outside the bubble, because otherwise you're in the bubble.
And that is one of the opportunities that tech gives you by, usually salaries are somewhere on the higher end in the tech world. And so you should, rather than using that as an opportunity to work
Work
even more
more.
and get even more money, use it as an opportunity to not have to work as much and be able to have like a living wage,
It's
but be
funny,
able to
hey?
have an actual personal life and
You
like,
you have time and you work
yeah,
from home and you have money, and it's like, oh no, let's do more work from home to make more money so I have less time, or like some sort of
yeah,
uh,
it's a trap. And on that note, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the NavBar, and we will see you again next
I
week.
enjoyed this one. See you later. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.